What is going on, Alabama fans? Chris Daughtry here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. And coming up on today's show, we are talking about the latest Alabama football news and rumors, SEC championship possibilities, as well as what Kalen DeBoer said about facing LSU after they fired Brian Kelly. First up here, let's talk about what Kalen DeBoer had to say. I have seen a few different betting lines for this Alabama versus LSU game coming up here in a couple of weeks. I've seen Alabama as high as a 12.5-point favorite, but I've also seen a few lines out there that have Alabama as low as a 5-point favorite in this ball game. And I'll be completely honest with you guys. Las Vegas is usually pretty good about setting these betting lines, and usually there, might be a little bit of, some discrepancy between, the different sports books and things like that, but it's usually only like a point or point and a half, difference between them. It's nothing like a 7-point difference there. This, I think, could end up turning into a very freezing cold take, and I'd be totally fine if that ended up happening, but I do think the firing of Brian Kelly might actually light a fire under this LSU team right now. And I'll be honest, I'm willing to bet that these LSU players could see right through all the fake BS, acting like he cared about them. Billy, our producer here, asked me after our video yesterday, I was saying all this stuff about Brian Kelly, negative stuff about Brian Kelly. I'm not a fan of his at all. He was asking if that was a bit. Absolutely not. I think Brian Kelly might be my least favorite person in college football, and I have a sneaky suspicion as well that this LSU team might have felt the exact same way about him too. We're going to talk about what Kalen DeBoer had to say about this matchup here in just a second, but if you guys love the Crimson Tide, I need a little bit of help from you guys here. What I want you to do, if you are watching on your phone right now, on the mobile YouTube app, right under the comment section, I want you guys to scroll over to the right. There's this little button. It's a hype button you can see right there. When you guys hit that hype button, it pushes it out into the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us out, gets more Alabama fans' eyes here on today's video, and it allows us to also put more content out for you guys as well. So help me out and hit that hype button here on today's show. All right, this is what Kalen DeBoer said about LSU firing Brian Kelly. He was on SEC this morning saying, unfortunately, I think just in the coaching world and, these teams have had these situations pop up. You can see it kind of go in both directions. With the next week in particular, there's a different type of energy. I think you could say that when UAB fired their head coach as well. The very next week, they went and got a win. Kalen DeBoer goes on, continues talking about this, saying, just everyone's kind of trying to make a run and do something together when these changes happen. We've just got to do what we have been doing and just focus on us and focus on what we have to do to improve in these areas. We'll be ready to adjust to whatever comes our way. Now, this LSU game, I think, is just going to be another challenge for this Alabama team. Same exact thing as that South Carolina game last week. This LSU team still does have a lot of talent on their roster right now, and you guys know how I feel about Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not really a fan of him. I don't really think he's as good as some of these, NFL draft analysts, put him on their big boards and whatnot. But, there is still a lot of people out there that do like him. He hasn't really been great this year, but at the same time, neither had Lenora Sellers, and he went out there and had a really good game against Alabama. You got guys like Whit Weeks. He might actually be healthy enough by the time you end up playing them. I think he's one of the best linebackers in college football right now. Harold Perkins Jr., he could definitely be a problem against this Alabama offensive line. Mansour Delane as well. He's having a really good season at corner. You got Alabama transfer, Aaron Anderson. He's a very explosive player. And I even thought freshman running back Harlem Berry actually looked pretty good in that first half of that Texas A&M game as well. He had some explosive runs in the first half of that game. LSU as well, they have had top 10 recruiting classes for the past, a long time now. They also brought in the number 1 transfer portal class this last offseason as well. They've got the talent, I think, on this roster. So, just like last week, Alabama cannot let this complacency creep in, and it's something that they're just going to have to prove week in and week out. So how confident are you in Alabama beating LSU? You got the bye week next week, but then you have LSU coming to town after that. Let me know what you guys think. Scale it for me 1 to 10 down at the pinned comment of today's video. Now we're also going to talk about the SEC standings a little bit as well on today's show. Right now, Alabama is sitting really tied for number 2 with Texas A&M because they do have that one out-of-conference loss. But both of these teams right now are 5-0. I think Ole Miss right now is a really, really fun team as well. Georgia still got that grit under Kirby Smart with them. Vanderbilt, my God, they're a completely different Vanderbilt team that we have all known here for the past, 20, 25, 30, hell, 50 years. They are a completely different program right now. Texas is still there as well. Tennessee may still be in the cards right now. We'll see what happens there. Missouri sitting at 2-2. Oklahoma sitting at 2-2. Florida still down there. We'll talk about the betting odds here in just a little bit as well. But Florida still in the top 8 right now in terms of those betting odds to win the SEC championship as well. So we're going to talk about some potential matchups here in just a second. But first, we want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's show. That is Prize Picks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning that you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want more than on Josh Allen, passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. Obviously, Alabama is off this week, so we are going with an Ohio State versus Penn State matchup for our Prize Picks lineup here. Going with Carnell Tate, more than receiving yards. The new quarterback here for Penn State, Ethan Grunkenmeyer, I believe is how you pronounce his name there, going with the less than longest completion at 32.5 yards. And then Julian Sand, obviously, was at Alabama for about a week or so before transferring to Ohio State. He's their starting quarterback now. He's having an incredible season right now for the Buckeyes, going with a more than on him 1.5 passing touchdowns. That is the power play, by the way. But on Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose the flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payout, go for the power play just like the one we just showed you there. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5. That link's going to be down in the description of today's show. It's also going to be down at the pinned comment of today's video as well. We appreciate Prize Picks for being the sponsor of today's show. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Now, we've got a rat poison alert for you guys right now. I know, the first half of our video was talking about, staying on point, not looking ahead. Well, the good thing for us, we're not on the team, right? We're fans, and we can afford to actually look ahead because at the end of the day, we're not the ones that are out there playing on the football field. And right now, Alabama has the best odds to win the SEC championship. These odds, by the way, are from, FanDuel. Alabama right now sitting at plus 115, Texas A&M at plus 220, Georgia at plus 500, Ole Miss at plus 1200, Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, both in there, rounding out the top 6 there for the SEC championship odds. After that, the next highest odds is actually Florida at plus 17,500. That is over teams like Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Missouri, which I do find very odd right now because I think all 3 of those teams are better than a Florida team right now, but there's still, 5 weeks left in the season. Alabama still has 3 more SEC matchups to go. The door right now is still very much wide open when it comes to these possibilities, who could be playing in this year's SEC championship game. So prediction time. I want to hear from you guys down inside the comments section. Who do you think will end up winning this year's SEC championship? Let me know. Pick a team. You can pick Alabama Crimson Tide, obviously, down there. But there's another team out there. Maybe it's Georgia. Maybe it's, Texas A&M. Maybe it's Ole Miss. Let me know what you guys think down inside the comments section. Now, like I said, right now, there are just so many possibilities to make a real prediction, I think, Texas A&M, they're ranked number 3 in the country right now, but I feel like the hype for Texas A&M right now is just flying way under the radar. Ole Miss, I think they're a really funny team, or a really fun team, and I'll be honest, I kind of despise it when I hear people, Lane Kiffin continues to get brought up for these other coaching jobs, whether it's LSU, whether it is Florida, or even Penn State out there as well. I kind of despise it when people say that Lane Kiffin can't win a national championship at Ole Miss. I definitely think he can. People always talk about, fits and how Brian Kelly isn't a fit anywhere he goes. Lane Kiffin is a perfect fit for this Ole Miss football team. I think he could definitely win a national championship at Ole Miss. Georgia definitely still in it right now. Vanderbilt definitely still in it. Good thing for Alabama, though, is we have already won the head-to-head matchup against those two teams. So if you end up, dropping a game in SEC play, you still do have the head-to-head win against them. But, teams like Ole Miss or Texas, if, someone, were to, if you were to somehow drop a game against, LSU, Oklahoma, or Auburn, those teams, depending on how things end up playing out for the rest of the season, those, Texas A&M and Ole Miss, they could end up jumping you in the SEC rankings. So, it's going to be a whole lot of fun to think about all these different types of possibilities over the next 5 weeks here. But, this week the focus is just getting healthier, and next week the main focus is just going to be beating LSU.